Hey, it's Katie Moran. Welcome to Heartfelt Lift. Today I'm here with host of Women of Impact, co-founder of Impact Theory, and $1 billion business Quest Nutrition, author of Radical Confidence, 11 lessons on how to get the relationship, career, and life you want. She was a major influence in me overcoming bulimia, the reason why I believe in self-signaling, and she has taught me confidence when I had difficulty speaking aloud due to anxiety. And now she's on my podcast. Welcome, Lisa.
Girl, this is such a freaking honor. I just want to highlight what you just said. You didn't even feel confident enough to speak out, and now you have your own podcast. I really hope that people just take absolute note of who you are today does not dictate the person you can become. And girl, I am completely inspired by your transformation.
I'm just so honored to be here with you, the one and only Lisa Bilyeu.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, girl.
um, so I recently asked my audience, why do men say there's no good women and women say there's no good men? And it got over 700 replies. It really was
Wow.
heartbreaking to read them because it's no matter how people phrased their answer, there was so much pain behind it. And I just wonder, because I've heard you talk about the importance of mindset in this. Can you elaborate on that?
Wow, why I think that there was so much feedback.
Just why there's so much pain in today's world when it comes to this idea of dating, and that people feel like it's a zero-sum game that they're destined to lose.
Oh, yeah, I think a big part of it is you speak what you know. And so if you've experienced dating where you've gone out and you've just had bad experiences, and I'm going to just speak for now from a female perspective, where let's say you've gone out and you go on 10 dates, and every single date, the guy hasn't been chivalrous, and let's say he's been rude or he's ignored you. And so you take those 10 experiences and you paint them a picture of being fact. Now, and I think the same is true on the male side of it. And when you feel lost, you grapple at something that's going to make you feel better. So, what makes you feel better? A community of people that's saying that you're right. So, you now go have this real crazy bifurcation between men and women where you've got these bad experiences. Let's say you're a guy and you're saying there's no good women out there. You have the red pill community to greet you. Now
Mhm.
you go from feeling lost and not knowing what to do to an entire community that feels like they get you. They have been there too, and now you feel seen and heard. So what ends up happening is you then double down on that story that you tell yourself, because now you're surrounded by people that have the same story you do. And exactly the same thing I think happens on the female side. You go out, you have these bad experiences, and then you've got this community of women that turn around and go, yeah, men are garbage. You do you. You don't need a man. And so you feel good about yourself temporarily because you have people around you that get you. But what that does is it starts to codify the way that you see the world. And now you see the world as that is as fact. So now you've got these two sides of the spectrum that have gone really extreme. And while I completely have utter compassion over those people that find themselves in that situation, I try to take full ownership. So for me, I take full ownership over if I've dated 10 losers, where's my part in this? Why am I choosing people that don't show up for me, that don't set bound or that push past my boundaries?
Mhm.
What does the work look like so that I can actually show up confident? And if I meet somebody that isn't necessarily good for me, I have the confidence to walk away. So I think that we need to start focusing on ourselves. How do I show up better? What is my value system? What do I care about? Write that out and then go on the dating knowing that not everyone's going to be for you. I've been married, as you know, for 21 years. And when I think about the fact where it's like, I've only got eyes for you, that is utter BS. The truth is, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, Katie. So
Mhm.
to think that Tom is the only one for me, or and I'm the only one for Tom, I think is being naive. I think
Mhm.
actually what's more powerful is to say that we chose each other, even though there's 7.5 billion people in the world. So now the question is, who are you going to choose? Do not leave it up to circumstance. Do not leave it up to chance. Do the work, show up in your true authenticity, and you will find people that align with you. It won't be easy. So if you see it like building a business, that's going to be hard. If you see it like building wealth, which is going to be hard. If you see it like building your health, it's going to be hard. Have that same expectation with a relationship, and then give yourself the grace when it doesn't work out. But I don't think people are willing to look that deep. And I think they stick to the surface of they went on a date, it didn't work out, and now everyone's garbage.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you talk about boundaries because a couple months ago I was having a really hard time with boundaries, and Delia, who works for you, she actually sent me your boundaries playlist on Women of Impact, which was just so helpful. And I also asked Tom the question about this idea of boundaries, and he said that you have to practice. It's not going to be easy. So going back to your idea that no matter what you do, it's hard if you're doing something that's moving you forward. And I would say even if you're not moving forward, that's even harder. He said to me about don't burn your flesh to keep others warm. And
Ooh.
like that was like a deep moment, but without your boundary list, that would have went in one ear and without the other, like out the
Mm.
other, because it's so important that these ideas come back down to things that we can do in our lives. And like I think about like when you had the boundary boss on, and like how like I was taking notes, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this different. And this idea that like I just want to thank you for like Women of Impact, and how you actually like have a roadmap, and even in the book too, a roadmap to do these things, that you're not just pushing ideas in like some sort of like fairy tale land. Like it's actually like this is how you can do this, and like you're proof that it works. So I want to go into this moment in your book, which I think is, it could have been longer. It's like this could be another book in itself, and like I would just love that one too. But it's in the last chapter, and you talk about how you were dating this a-hole, and and basically you bring up this amazing point that if you didn't end things with him, you never would have met Tom. And like that brought me to tears, because I like think about how much you and Tom have like impacted me, like going from suicidal to fulfilled. And like it's like, oh no. Like thank God. And I love how you just like put that was like something that really like was a lead domino. And I want to go to the moment where you were in the car with him, and you said you had an on and off relationship where you were breaking up and getting back together. What does it take in that moment to just drop him off and never go back?
Yeah, so it was an on and off 4-year relationship. It was very tumultuous. The manipulation and the verbal abuse was just very bad. At the time, I was very insecure, and so I just interpret that to be love. He was very jealous. Oh, that must mean that he loves me, and I held on to that for my own validation. And it wasn't until I had gone away to college, and that was, I think, the really first step is you don't realize what you don't know. And so you may think the things in front of you, well, it's just fact. Well, okay, well, if he's jealous, then of course that means love. Once you move away, you start to meet new people with new ways of thinking, new ways of talking, new ways of showing up. It starts to make you, or at least for me, it made me start to question my beliefs and how I saw the world, because I would see great relationships. I would see guys being nice to me, and that started to pique my curiosity. And I think that
Mhm.
is really the first step, where you go from you really believe in your ideas, you don't think anything of it, you just consider them fact, and then something happens and it piques your curiosity. Once you can allow yourself to be curious, it allows you to ask questions that maybe you didn't want to ask before. Because the reason why a lot of times we don't want to ask ourselves the questions is the truth is we don't want to know the answer, or we fear
Mm.
the answer. So for
Mhm.
instance, in that moment, if I said to ask myself, what would happen if you left him, Lisa? The fear of me going, well, you would be happier, right? Like, because that could very well be the answer. Well, now, oh my God, I have to actually do something about it. I have to tell him goodbye. If you live with someone, you have to move out of your apartment. If you've got kids, you have to think about custody. So the reason why a lot of us don't ask ourselves the hard questions is we're afraid what the answer is going to tell us. And that was my life. I was so afraid of the answers of what would my life be if I wasn't around him. I never asked. But I go to university, I pique my curiosity, I start to ask myself the questions, I start to then explore other avenues. And that's kind of the final piece is like, okay, well, what if there was a world out there that didn't just predicate on being with this guy? What does that look like? And that forced me to go internal. That forced me to look at my value systems, to look at my boundaries. You know, when you brought
Mm,
that up, that was
mhm,
when I first met Tom, because I'd already looked at, hang on a minute, it doesn't feel good when he does this, my ex-boyfriend. It doesn't feel good when he says this. It doesn't feel right when he does this, you know, and I basically had a list of all the things that actually, this doesn't feel right. And this was a list that I was ignoring for years and years and years.
mhm,
So, but because I had the curiosity, I wrote the list. Once I had the list, I was able to say, oh, he's never going to change. It's been 4 years, and all these things on the list that I no longer will accept, he won't accept to this list. So I've got a choice. I can either negotiate my boundaries to suit him, or I can set my own boundaries and just lay them out with grace and see if he's not willing to do it, then I walk away. And so over time, it became that he wasn't willing to respect my boundaries. He wasn't willing to respect my values. And because over time I had done the work, when it came to that one moment where we're in the car and here we are again, he's ignoring my boundaries, he's being disrespectful, all the things that I said that I was no longer going to take, he starts to do, it all kind of just clicked. And I was like,
mhm,
oh, yeah, this is never going to work. Goodbye. And it was one of those, but it had taken, right? It's kind of like the iceberg. You see the
mhm,
tip of the iceberg. That's me leaving. But underneath that is all the work I had to do in order to leave. So that's really where it finally came to a head, where I'd done all the internal work. I said, I'm no longer going to take disrespect. Oh, hang on, he's always going to disrespect you. Now what are you going to do about it? And that was very powerful for me, and in leaving that, of course, then opened me up to the possibilities, to something new, something fresh. And then on my, I won't say on my first date with Tom, but once we started to realize we were getting serious, that's when then I brought out my list that I had written when I was with my ex. And
mhm,
I just said to Tom, all right, just so you know, I've had a very toxic ex-boyfriend, and here are the things I'm not going to take. And here are the non-negotiables. Now, I'm telling you my non-negotiables so that we can have an amazing relationship. This isn't a threat. This isn't a, you know, like a punishment. This is, hey, if we actually want our relationship to work, we have to be very honest and transparent of what we're not going to accept. And for me, it was very clear. It was infidelity. I was never going to accept that, and I was never going to forgive. And again, a lot of people do. Zero judgment. I'm just not one of those women. So respectfully, I said to him, hey, if you cheat on me, just so you know, you cheat on me on Wednesday, 12:04, Wednesday, 12:05, my bags are packed and I'm out the door, period. You can't physically hit me. You can't hit me, and you can't threaten to hit me, because I need to feel safe, right? So the first one's about trust. I need to trust you. So if you ever cheat on me, I'm out the door. The second one is about safety, because those were the two things I didn't feel I had in my past relationship. So the safety part is, if you even pretend to threaten me, that you're going to raise your hand or physically hurt me, I'm out the door, because I have to always feel safe around you. And so once I was able to articulate it to him, I was able to articulate why. Now the ball is in his court. And we've been together for 23 years. We've been married for 21, and not once has he done either of those.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And relationship theory, even before I started Impact Theory University, it helped me leave an abusive relationship because I saw how healthy that was, and he refused to watch it with me. And that was like when I was like starting to see signs.
Mm. Oh
So
my
thank you so
God.
much.
That's so powerful. In fact, that's really the answer I should have had, girl. I should have said, all right, so when you date someone, sit with them and watch relationship theory and see what their response is.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for everything you've done for me, and I'm sure so many people who are watching.
Thank you, girl. I want to just then take a second to just say, you inspire me. When you,
Crying.
I mean this, girl, and I'm going to stare you right in the freaking eyes. Your journey is incredible. Not everybody can do what you've done. It isn't easy. But the fact that you've been able to do it, and I'm sure it's still a struggle, but you keep showing up every day, is a true testament of what a human can do. So anyone listening right now, that thing they're telling themselves they can't do, they're no good at, you are a perfect example. And so I want people to bake your name into their minds. And literally anytime that they feel like they can't, I want them to repeat to themselves, if Katie can do it, I can do it.
Thank you so much, Lisa. So much love for you.
Ditto, girl. Thanks for having me on.